Yesterday or today, the Inspector General of the State Department came out and said there were at least 2 top secret emails on Hillary Clinton's server that were top secret at the time they were sent. I'm not an attorney, but I believe that's a crime. What are you, or what is the Congress, or what is anybody going to do about this?
So the FBI has taken her server and and files that were on that server, and they're going to determine whether it's true that classified information was sent through that server, which she said didn't happen.
But the Inspector General of the State Department said it did.
No, I got that. That's why the FBI has it. That's the entity that is the law enforcement entity that is going to investigate that. And I hope, look, Secretary Clinton should just be transparent about this. If she did nothing wrong, just give out the information, for crying out loud. Don't do the drip, drip, drip thing. This is, look, all I can tell you is how I've done. I've released 33 years of tax returns. Not the most fun thing in the world to do. As governor, I had emails. You can go online at, I think, jebemail.com or something like that. You can go check my emails. It's a matter of public record. I'm writing a book, an e-book about my emails, because I used emails to serve people. And I think just being clear and transparent, the Justice Department now has this information. They'll make the determination, but she should just come clean. And there's another element. Put aside I'm not a lawyer either, so I don't know what the criminal justice elements of this are. This was against the Obama administration's procedures as well. I mean, there's an issue there as well. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, dear. I came vacation at Vegas and I'm not informing. I came for a training. So instead of going to casinos, I came to talk to you.
That was safer.
I have a message for you. Can you please press stand up for me and ask Jeb Bush that we need you to support immigrants with the citizenship path that you have white immigrants and you will not let the white from citizenship. I'm an immigrant.
Aren't you guys letting her have a mic?
I can hear it.
All of these friends that came with me, can you guys raise your hand and we just want you, because I like you. I think if I were Republican, I would vote for you.
Oh.
But let me tell you, I want you to support immigrants with the immigration reform.
I'll tell you what I'm for.
Citizenship.
I'll tell you what
the
I'm
whole
for.
package. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you didn't lose your money. Here's what I'm for. What I'm for is a path to legalized status. Yeah, okay. I respect you. That's fine. My belief is that what we need to do is secure the border, first and foremost. We need to make sure that coming here legally is easier than coming here illegally. That means securing the border. It means dealing with the 40% of people that are here undocumented, coming with a legal visa, just overstaying their time. There are things that we need to do to create certainty that the government is fulfilling the rule of law. Secondly, I do think that we need to create a path to earn legal status, which means you get a provisional work permit, you come out from the shadows, you pay a fine, you work, you pay taxes, which people normally do. And over an extended period of time, you learn English, you don't receive federal government assistance. Over an extended period of time, you earn legal status. You don't receive a path to citizenship cutting in line with people that have been patiently waiting. As it relates to children that have come here through no fault of their own, their parents came illegally and their children came with them, I do believe that DREAM Act kids should have a path to citizenship that is earned. And that has been my position for a long while. It's the position I have, and I think it's the right
one. Thank you, Governor. My wife followed the rules and immigrated based upon the laws and the rules, and believe me, we waited in line a long time.
I bet you did.
But we've heard from the horse's mouth of 4 other candidates what they're going to do on day 1. Could you tell us what your day 1 is going to be?
Day 1? Well, the first part of it is that when I wake up with this awesome responsibility, I'm going to pray to my Creator and thank God for every president does, immediately send a signal of seriousness about, in my case, the two things that trouble me the most and the opportunities that are biggest relate to the barriers for economic growth for people to get greater income in their families. And so I think there's the chance to undo many of the executive orders that the president has done that stifled economic activity. You can undo it if the rules haven't been completed. So depending on how far along these rules are, I pledge to undo that. Secondly, I think you got to get on the phone and start talking to people around the world to say, we got your back again. First, probably would be my personal belief is it would be you start with the neighborhood, you start with Mexico and Canada, because we've lost our connectivity with our neighbors, and that creates problems. Secondly, it would be Israel and a whole bunch of other countries. But we need to get back in the game and make sure that our friends know that we're serious about our security interests that also are important for our friends and neighbors. Those would be the two first things. And I might actually call a Democrat or two. You know, this idea that somehow we have to have two armed camps. Here in Las Vegas, you have nonpartisan races, so you may not have the armed camp deal, right? I mean, you work together. You find common ground. You don't necessarily ascribe bad motives. You actually live with one another. It's a little bit different. Maybe we should restore some of that in Washington, D.C. We've got to get back to that for sure. I'm looking for the...
Good afternoon, Governor. I'm an immigrant in the Philippines. When I came here with my parents, my sister had already turned 18, so we petitioned her as an adult and waited another 8 years for myself to be reunited with my sister. Now, when you talk about immigration reform, you talk about either two camps, either the ones that want to secure the border or the dreamers. The ones that people have forgotten about are people like myself. There are hundreds, if not millions of families that have been waiting on family members that they have petitioned for legally.
Yep.
That have, quite frankly, have waited since your dad was president to come in. When are they going to get their due justice?
ICE is broken. The legal system is broken. It takes way too long. I don't think necessarily, by the way, that, and you might disagree with this, but I think family reunification is a value that Americans have. It's been a core of our immigration system. But we have a definition of family that is unique in the world, and not many people know this. We have spouse and minor children, which has been the definition of family in our country, and certainly the definition in terms of immigration for us and for every country. But we also have adult siblings and adult parents. And we have chain migration because of this. So in the Philippines, which is a great example, you have 100-year waits because of this expansive definition of family. Canada has more economic immigrants than the United States does, a country 1/10 our size. So part of the plan that I believe in is that we would narrow family petition to make sure that we expedite spouse and minor children, but then we create an economic strategy for the country by picking people that can make an immediate contribution. And that would be in the norm of what immigration flows look like for the rest of the world, and I think it would be the best way to go for our own country as well. Just pick up.
What about his sister, though? What about his sister?
I just answered the question.
Yeah, wait 100 years. I told you.
What about his sister who's an adult?
My plan would be to narrow it to spouse and minor children.
This counts the sister.
It does, yeah, except if they're already in line, then they would be able to stay in line.
For 100 years.
Yeah.
100 years. Stay away for 100 years.
No, it's not 100 years now. Well, then it's not going to happen. Yeah.
As a former Floridian who voted for you when I lived in Florida, congratulations on the job that you did there. Welcome to Nevada.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And my question is, with an $18 trillion debt that we have in the U.S. today, what are your plans to reduce it?
So, $18 trillion of debt exists because we have a chronic deficit problem. It's not a cyclical problem. Cyclical would mean if the economy grows, it would, it shrinks a little bit, but then when we have a downturn, it grows even more. And every time we have a downturn, the new baseline gets bigger and bigger. And it's because of two things. We're not growing our economy at a rate that It generates revenue for government. The notion that every time we have a new idea, that we have to raise taxes, the net result is we stifle economic activity and revenue doesn't grow at the projected rate at all. Maybe we should try a different approach, which is high sustained economic growth generating revenue. In fact, this debate about 4% growth versus 2% growth, it sounds kind of like an economics deal, but the 2% growth differential, if you compounded that out, activity in the 10th year. I mean, I promise you that state, local, and federal government would get far more revenue by focusing on higher growth than by no growth. The demands on government would subside if you're growing, because people would be less dependent on government. People don't want to be dependent upon government. They want a chance to be able to rise up. And so that's the first step, is to grow the economy. Second, you gotta be focused on making sure government delivers its services, and the objective always ought to be higher services, lower price, lower cost. States do this. Why is the federal government exempt from all the things that, I mean, local governments do it all the time? You have to be innovative. We have a mid-20th century government on top of a dynamic 21st century world. And so challenging that. I mean, think about it, $800 million for a website, for healthcare.gov. You can't make that up. I mean, you really would have to work hard to spend that kind of money. And so my personal belief is that reforming and restricting government. I think, for example, the government workforce could, by attrition alone, and a 3-to-1 rule, so every 3 jobs that you retire, you're able to hire one, that you can reduce the government workforce by 10% in 5 years, easily. So those things would be the second thing. And then third, we have to come to grips with preserving and protecting our entitlement systems for those that have already gotten it, but reforming it to protect it, to make sure it exists for those that haven't. Because here's the deal, Medicare has a contingent liability of $29 trillion. $29 trillion, net present value of the cost exceeding the revenues that are anticipated. Medicaid has a similar kind of number, slightly less. Social Security, by 2032 now, according to the estimates of the government, will be bankrupt. And when it's bankrupt, there'll be a 20 to 25% reduction in the payments that Social Security beneficiaries receive. So to protect and preserve it for people that have already gotten it, I think is the right thing to do. But reforming our entitlement system to make sure that people have it 10 years from now, 15 years, 20 years from now, requires reforming all 3 of those large programs. And if you do those 3 things, you'll begin to see the economy grow and debt begin to recede. Yes, sir.